Oh shit. Shit. What it is, guys, it is your boy. It is your boy, Samoan Fan 101. Sorry about the little intro, but I was too busy trying to vent my frustration by getting frustrated at Castlevania for the NES. Hang on, let me adjust them. There we go. Now, with that bullshit out of the way, let us take off to a place of merry wonder. No, let's talk about SummerSlam. Yesterday, I reviewed and I uploaded NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. Today, I will be reviewing SummerSlam. Depending on how long this video goes, which hopefully is not too long, I may watch SmackDown, although I plan on going out later, so I'm probably not going to be able to watch SmackDown live tonight, so sorry about that. Although some of you guys, like Lundrick, my friend, and even you, Prince of Strong Style, you're probably like, well, neither are we. So with that said, let's get the show on the road. We're already almost 2 minutes into the video because apparently you caught me playing Castlevania on NES. That game was fucking hard. It's great, but it's fucking hard. So with that being said, let's get to SummerSlam. SummerSlam took place from the Barclays Center only 2 nights ago. And they will be at Barclays again for SmackDown and 205 Live tonight. Hang on. Just trying to make sure it's my camera's all situated. It looks a little better, not too much though. Anyway, so with that said, let's get to SummerSlam. Opening match, no, the kickoff show. I got to get the kickoff show because of course there was 3 matches, and I will put the 3 matches on and the ratings in the description box down below. But let me make this perfectly clear. The kickoff show was 2 hours long, which means the show was 6 hours total. And guess what? Those 2 hours, the matches and how they came out, for the most part, a waste of my time. They were a complete waste of time. Sort of. I mean, they weren't totally, but yeah. For the most part, I mean, the kickoff show, like, if you're gonna put a match on the kickoff show and the show is 2 hours, give them some fucking time. And you'll see what I mean in a second. Rusev, the very first match of the night, not of, sorry about that. Got my water, right here. So let's go. The very first match of the night was Rusev and Lana against Andrade, Cien, Almas, and Zelina, Vega, mixed tag team match. Of course, this has all been building up since Extreme Rules last month. Yeah, I believe it was at Extreme Rules when Rusev lost a match to a WWE Championship match to AJ Styles, and Aiden English accidentally cost him the title. Now, Aiden English did not come out tonight, but he was seen backstage briefly when they told him to stay in the back for fear that it might cost him the match, which, I mean, it did anyway. I mean, they lost anyway, so honestly, I could have used Aiden English. They could have used Aiden English's help. So, the match itself, it was mediocre, so to speak. It wasn't a horrible match, so don't want people going out there saying, oh, it was a shitty match, because it wasn't. But the match itself really was nothing special. There really wasn't anything special about it, aside from the fact that it was basically Rusev Day versus the Mexicans. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, there was really nothing special. They lost the match. Rusev and Lana did, and Cien, Almas, and Zelina Vega won the match. The only thing noteworthy about this match was the finish. The match was actually going decently well until the finish. Finish was supposed to be, and this would be a theme throughout the night, all these finishes. So Andrade Cien Almas would distract Lana, which he did. And Lana would basically slap him in the face, off the apron basically. And Zelina Vega would come up from behind and roll her up for a 3 count. Yes, the distraction roll up. How many fucking times have we seen the distraction roll up on anything WWE related, but especially Raw and SmackDown. So yes, Rusev and Lana lost. But what happened was, and here the finish was supposed to be Zelina Vega would roll her up after the distraction, and she would put on her feet on the ropes, and win that way. There's one little problem with that. Zelina Vega, as we all know, Zelina Vega is short. That's, that's neither here nor there. Everyone already knows that. She was so short, she mistimed the distance between where she rolled Lana up and where she would put on her feet on the rope. She put her feet on the rope barely before the count of 3. She actually missed it. It was botched. She missed the first time she was supposed to put her feet on the rope, and then right when the referee's hand was going down for the 3 count, she finally got at least 1 foot on the rope. So it was a decent match with a bad finish, or should I say a botched finish. Now, as the first finish, I didn't mind it too much until we get to the next 2 matches, especially the third one. And yeah, and no, before any of you bitch and moan about how, he's gonna shit on the show and love NXT, keep in mind, I actually liked this show. Were there things about it that frustrated me? Yes, there were. But I actually did like this show. I thought this was overall a good show. That I give it a thumbs up show with some minor quibbles that I was getting really annoyed with by the end of the night, because it just kept on repeating itself and repeating itself and repeating itself. Next match, which took place like 30-40 minutes later, was Cedric Alexander and Drew Gulak for the Cruiserweight Championship. Bullshit how this match is on the pre-show, not on the main card, but I was like, okay, it's on the pre-show. Pre-show's 2 hours long. Let's see how much time they give them. 10 minutes. Yep. Your big Cruiserweight title match of one of the biggest shows of the year, and it's given 10 minutes. Really? Really? You can't give these guys 15 minutes? Or 20 minutes? No, you had to give them 10. Idiots. And that's not a gripe against the show itself. That's just WWE, or really Vince McMahon, being stupid and not realizing what he's got with the Cruiserweight talent. Let us not forget Alicia Fox and Noam Dar. Anyway, the match itself, now, I will say, this match itself was actually pretty good. Now, granted, the crowd, and this would be a recurring theme, the crowd was very in and out of the show. It was very much for Rusev, the mixed tag team match right before it. Rusev, Lana, Cien, Almas, and Zelina Vega. They were whatever crowd was in the Barclays Center was very much were very loud for the mixed tag team match. Not so much for the Cruiserweight match. Now, by the last few minutes, they did get the crowd sort of into it, but it took a little bit of work. Cedric Alexander and Drew Gulak, yeah, I went with that way too fast. They had what I thought was actually a nice, good little match. They had a pretty good match that, even though it was only 10 minutes long, it's Alexander and Gulak, so you expect them to do something right with them. Both of them are very good wrestlers. Gulak is more of the ground and pound, beat the shit out of you style technical wrestler, while Alexander's a high flyer that can also beat the shit out of you. These two had a very good match. There was a really nice little spot where Cedric Alexander hit used the Spanish Fly as a counter to Drew Gulak, and Gulak rolled him up. The very end of the match, I will say, though, was anticlimactic. What happened was they were going for a bunch of roll-ups and near pinfalls, and I'm like, okay, it's going to go like this, and then one of them's going to punch the other right in the face or something and go down. Now what happened? Instead, on one of the roll-ups, Alexander actually pinned Drew Gulak. Yes, another roll-up. Right after we got a roll-up. While I did like the match, I was unenthused by the fact that it was only 10 minutes, and even less so that it was a roll-up, which we just saw. It wasn't the first time, and as it turned out, right in the next match, it wasn't the last. The B team, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, defending the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships against the Revival. I was pulling for the Revival here. I figured they weren't going to win, but I was pulling for them. Figured that they didn't win. And by the way, I had Cien, Almas, and Vega winning, and I had Drew Gulak winning. So I was 1 for 2. So, shit. So, with that said, let's get to this match. This match, now, I know some people, I saw some of the reviews online give this match some major shit. In some ways, and especially after the finish, very much more so. Would I call it a shit match? I'm not going to call it a shitty match. It was definitely borderline mediocre. It was just a couple steps, like a step or two from being bad. I'll probably give it the same rating as the mixed tag team match, but the mixed tag team match was better, so get that out of the way. So, we had the B team versus the Revival. By the way, the B team has some new music that they got recently. Man, does it not fit them. Their new music sucks. I mean, wow, does it stink. The new music is basically almost like parade music, and then whoever's singing the song is like, B team, go, go, go. And then it just replays itself over and over again. It's like the one theme song that's okay, not that great, but it's passable. And then it replays itself after every 20 seconds. I'm like, alright, shut up already. As you can tell, I'm a little bit frustrated with some of the small choices. Like I said, overall it was a good show, but some of the small choices really got under my skin. And let's just say, getting my ass kicked at Castlevania probably didn't help things. If anything, it probably made it worse. So, give me that. Next. Well, not next. I forgot to tell what happened. See, I already want to get past this match, but my mind is like, no, you review this. Anyway, what happened was, now, I don't give it a shitty rating for this. The Revival are a great team. They know how to work. So, really, it wasn't really the B team that was exciting me here. It was the Revival, like, keeping me somewhat interested because it's the Revival. I mean, the Revival is awesome. Both members are great at what they do as a team. And then what happened? Before I forget, I forgot to mention, the opening of the match had the Revival giving Curtis Axel the Shatter Machine, and for a brief second there, I'm like, oh my god, they're just going to win the titles outright. It turns out it did not happen because Curtis Axel wasn't even the legal man. Bo Dallas was, so there is that. Next was the... I keep saying next. I really want to get past this match. What happened was... I think Curtis Axel got the legal tag, and the Revival, I think it may have been Scott Dawson, who, he didn't get a roll-up, but he got a cradle. He got a cradle pin on Curtis Axel, and Dash Wilder, I believe, he snapped the Miz. He snapped Bo Dallas's head against the ropes. We've seen it all the time, like, you know, like the throat snapping as you're going down, as the other guy is going off the apron. What happened was he did that, and Bo Dallas basically walked backwards and like tripped over himself, tripped over Axel and Dawson, and basically reversed the pin to see that Curtis Axel wins. It was a neat thing for a while, but I'm gonna say it, I'm getting pretty fucking sick of the B team. Not as individual, not as a team or joke team, as tag team champions. The B team as tag team champions are not doing it for me. At first, I'm like, okay, give these guys a little reward. They'll hold it for like a month or something like that. I'll have a short reign, and then they'll lose it to whoever at Survivor Series. No, instead, we had another fluke win. These guys keep giving fluke wins after fluke wins after fluke wins. It's fucking ridiculous. And yet again, we had another cradle / roll-up. You're starting to see why. You're starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. The finish of the mixed tag team match was botched and not that good looking. Alexander Gulak was uneventful. And B Team and the Revival's finish just pissed me off because, oh my lord. Not only is it the third time we're seeing this on the same show, third time in a row no less, but it's the B Team having another fluke win. Okay, I better continue this before I blow my mind. Literally with a freaking hammer or something. The actual opener of the show, and by the way, yes, most of the matches didn't even go 10 minutes. Only Gulak and Alexander did, and their finish was uneventful. Basically, like I said, even though we got a good Cruiserweight title match out of it, a big waste of time. Anyway, the actual main card opened up with Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler defending the Intercontinental Championship against Seth Rollins, in what I thought was yet another great match. These two had a good, but not overhyped, but almost like overblown 30-minute Iron Man match last month. But a few weeks before that, they had a great match on Raw. They had another great match here. I thought these two went out there and had one of the best matches of the night. Seth Rollins, that he speaks for himself, and so does Ziggler. The week before, just last week, Dean Ambrose returned looking completely different. He didn't have peach fuzz and the long stringy hair. No, he shaved his head and grew a beard. He's looking like friggin' the cerebral assassin Dean Ambrose. Yes, he's looking a little bit like Triple H these days with his look. I guess imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Anyway, these two went out there. I can't really name too many spots they had. They just had some really good stuff. Ziggler, it was Ziggler. Ziggler had Drew McIntyre out there. Dean Ambrose was there in Rollins' corner. In various points throughout the match, Ambrose would confront Drew Galloway, but didn't touch him. It was just overall. It was just overall, not nice tension between the two. We thought they were going to get involved. They didn't get super involved until the very end, which I was glad. This match wasn't overbooked. There was a spot here. I will admit, the spot was awesome. There was a spot here when Seth Rollins, okay, you know how Seth Rollins goes for a superplex into the Falcon Arrow? Well, in this match, he went for a reverse superplex, which I haven't seen Ziggler do in a long time. The last time I saw Ziggler take reversed superplexes was when he was having matches with Alberto Del Rio 5 years ago. Back when Ziggler was the heel and Del Rio was the face, and even vice versa. Whether it was on TV or it was on pay-per-view, which they had both. So I thought that was... So what happened was, Rollins gave Ziggler a reverse superplex, and then transitioned it into what was basically Finn Balor's 1916, which I thought, I had to admit, was actually pretty cool to see. That was a really cool spot. Another spot, Ziggler hit DDT on the ring apron, which of course is, say with me now, is the hardest part of the ring, because they can't stop reminding us about it. So yeah, this was a pretty hard-hitting match. So what happened? So yeah, so after the inverted superplex and inverted 1916, Ziggler hit the zigzag. Rollins kicked out. Rollins, by this point, it was noticed that he busted something. Like he was bleeding from like the side of his head. I can only assume, because he wasn't bleeding before that, I can only assume he started bleeding after the inverted superplex spot, because maybe he landed on his head. Keep in mind, he's probably got Ziggler's knee right near his face, so it's pretty plausible that Ziggler accidentally hit Rollins' head on the way down. So that does make sense. Drew McIntyre tried to he attacked Dean Ambrose and tried to distract Seth Rollins. That's how he hit the zigzag spot right after that. Then Dean hit Drew McIntyre with the Dirty Deeds. Ziggler trying to take advantage of yet another distracted Rollins. Went for a super kick. Rollins instead hit a super kick, and then hit the blackout or the curb stomp for the win. Here I am calling it the blackout. That's the name he used all the way back in his NXT days. He used the curb stomp. Yeah, this was a great match. I gotta say it. Now, of course, there's been some divided opinion, but everyone can agree this was at least a good opener to the show. Some of us, like myself and Mr. Beetle890, shout out to you, bro. We both thought it was a great match. Then, we went from one of the best parts of the show to one of the worst parts of the show. Renee Young interviewing backstage. Now, out of all the interviewers in WWE, I do like Renee Young the best. She interviewed the Bella Twins. Yep. She interviewed the Bella Twins. This was bad. This was bad. So, basically, they interviewed the Bella Twins. The Bella Twins were plugging in all their shit. Total divas, total Bellas, total fuck you. There's my total. My total is fuck you. And Brie kept on talking about these things, or talking about other projects, and Nikki said, "Don't interrupt me, I'm trying to speak here," or something like that. This was awful. This was horrendous. And Nikki made it a point to say that they're going to watch Ronda Rousey and the Raw Women's Championship match later in the night. When I heard that, I literally gasped. Because I was afraid that, oh my god, we're going to get a run-in from Nikki Bella of all people. I was so afraid. Thankfully, that did not happen, but, well, I don't know if you guys seen any of the reports, but one of the recent reports and rumors is that the main event of the Evolution pay-per-view is going to be Ronda Rousey defending the Raw Women's Championship against Nikki Bella. You know, usually WWE cards are subject to change. I really hope that changes, because if not, I will light a torch and burn the ring myself to make sure that doesn't happen. Lord, Nikki Bella's not even with John Cena anymore. Why is she in the main event? She shouldn't have any pull anymore. Why is she? Why? Because fuck you. That's why. Next up was the Smackdown Tag Team Championship match. It was the Bludgeon Brothers against the New Day. Bludgeon Brothers, I'm not sick of the Bludgeon. Yeah, no, I am not sick of brunch just yet. I am not sick of the Bludgeon Brothers as the tag team champions, although I will admit, with how their reign's been going recently, it has been not exactly the most interesting. I'm not sick of them. I like the giant monster tag team thing, because Lord knows we need that after what they've done with the Authors of Pain. But I mean, my God, they need more. They need more interesting feuds than just the New Day and the Usos. What do we have? The New Day. Now, with that being said, this was actually a pretty good match. This match only went about 10 minutes. Rollins and Ziggler, by the way, went about 22 minutes, so they had a long opener. 10 minutes, barely, not even, a few seconds shy of 10 minutes, actually. So it was more like 9 minutes and like 40 seconds, 45 seconds maybe. But in that 9.5 minutes, we had a pretty good sprint here. These two guys went at it for a while. They hit splashes. Big E, of course, went for his diving out of the rope spear to, I believe it was Luke Harper. Maybe it was Eric Rowan. I'm pretty sure it was Harper. Which I fear for Big E's life every time he does that. Xavier Woods at one point, they were doing pretty good. Speaking of Big E, I had to mention this. Big E was giving belly-to-belly suplexes to both Rowan and Harper on the floor. He gave one that looked pretty good to Rowan, but then he gave one that looked good. He gave one to Harper. Harper almost landed on his like head. Keep in mind, Luke Harper, he's a tall dude, and Big E, he's a big, thick, muscular guy, but he's not exactly the tallest guy in WWE. He's not as tall as Luke Harper. So when he threw him, Harper nearly landed on his head, which I feared for Harper's life. I was afraid his neck was gonna break and we were gonna have a paralyzed Luke Harper. Thankfully, that did not happen. Near the end of the match. Near the end of the match, I gotta mention this. I almost forgot to mention. I was gonna mention the last spot for the finish, but. So what happened was, I think Eric Rowan was on the outside. Or maybe it was Harper. Rowan. Because I remember at one point, one of the Bludgeon Brothers, I forget who, one of them took out Kofi Kingston. And then he was taken out. But I remember there was a spot, and they've done this spot before, when they're on the apron, and Luke Harper is seemingly about to give Big E a suplex, and then he's stalling, and stalling, and stalling, and stalling, and oh my God, Xavier Woods getting in place already. It was clear that they were waiting for something. I don't know what. I didn't know what at the time. They were waiting for something, and what they were going to do, they've done this spot before, even on the floor. Big E was going to counter out of it. He was going to give him a Uranage, and Xavier Woods would come out and give him the backstabber, while Big E does the Uranage. They've done this move before. They've even done it on the outside before. But for whatever reason, Xavier Woods was out of position. That's why they were stalling as much as they did. At least Luke Hart. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. That's why they were stalling as long as they did. And sorry about that. Someone was in my throat. And you could tell they didn't exactly hit the move all the way. Because, again, Xavier Woods was still out of position. Aside from that, the rest of the match went pretty well. Woods went for a top rope elbow. But Harper rolled to the floor. So Xavier, instead, hit a top rope elbow from the top of the ring post onto the floor, nearly on the other side of the ring, onto Luke Harper. He wasn't standing up too, he was on the floor. That took a lot of balls, so at least Xavier Woods redeemed himself. He threw Harper in. He and Big E were going to go for the midnight hour, but then Rowan took one of his giant mallet hammer things and attacked Big E and Xavier Woods for the DQ. This was a pretty good match with a less than satisfying finish. If you wanted the Bludgeon Brothers to win, then just have them fucking win. Or Or have, or what you should have done was have the Bludgeon Brothers win in like a somewhat sneaky way, you know, a questionable finish, but still a finish, and then the New Day could, you know, scream rematch with them. No, instead they straight up gave a DQ right when they were about to lose. Well, if I were any champion, I'd do that, but you know that doesn't make for good TV. Clearly, it did not here. Next up was Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens for the Money in the Bank contract. This match went less than 2 minutes. This was a squash on the hands of Kevin Owens. Braun Strowman murdered Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, he was in there. He was been getting the shit kicked out of him by Braun Strowman for months. For months. No, not for months, although that would be funny. For months. And Strowman, at some of the time, Strowman was not justified at all. He was being a prick. So what happened was, if Strowman lost this match in any way, DQ, countout, pinfall, submission, he would lose the briefcase to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens got his ass kicked in this match. Braun Strowman powdered him to the floor. He threw him against the barricade. He ran. I think he threw him against the barricade. But what he did do, he does his normal running thing. I will admit, Kevin Owens does a great selling job at this. Kevin Owens is a tackle on the floor, and Kevin Owens basically turns inside out, lands on his stomach instead of his back, which I'll admit was pretty cool. Kevin Owens tried to run away for his life. Strowman caught him, hit a sick-looking choke slam on the steel part of the ramp of the stage. That was sick and awesome and sick. Then he threw him in the ring, hit one power slam to Kevin Owens, and he won the match. On one hand, I loved the destruction from Braun Strowman. Seeing him destroy people was always amazing. But with that being said, I fucking hated this for one reason. Kevin Owens got squashed. Kevin Owens, whether you think he's a mid-card guy or a top guy, he's not the kind of person you squash in a match. I don't care who it's against. You don't, unless it was Goldberg. That made sense in terms of the story with him and Jericho distracting him. This was not Owens and Goldberg from last year at Fastlane. No, this was Owens getting his ass kicked for almost 2 minutes by Braun Strowman. I thought that was dumb. That they basically I don't want to say they buried Kevin Owens, because that is a really overused word. They haven't... now, if we see after the... Now, we didn't see him last night on Raw. If we see after the fact him doing stupid shit, then I will say he was buried. Until then, I'm not going to say he's buried, but this was not good news at all for Kevin Owens. Next up, and you'll see why, considering what they do later on. Next up was the Smackdown Women's Championship match. It was the champion, Carmella. She was defending against both Becky Lynch and Charlotte. Well, I'll get to her in a second. This match, I'll admit, this was a pretty good match. This was this was probably a little bit higher than the Cruiserweight match, because this was given 5 more minutes. The crowd was solidly behind Becky Lynch. They were very indifferent to, they were very indifferent to, Carmella, considering she's a New Yorker. They really did not like Charlotte being in this match, and I'll get to why. This was actually a pretty good match. This had some good stuff in it. However, there was one wrestler that at several points in the match was not on point. And believe it or not, it wasn't Carmella. It was Charlotte. Go back and watch the match. It was a good match, don't get me wrong, but go back and watch, and you can tell this was a match mainly being carried by Becky Lynch and Carmella, and Charlotte to a degree when she was just in there with Becky Lynch. But when she was doing other things, she was not on point at all. I'll talk through it all. There was a point when they were supposed to do a missed communication spot where Charlotte was supposed to boot Give the big, because she can do that with her long blades. Give the big boot to Carmella, and Charlotte ended up hitting Becky Lynch. Not only does it look like she aimed for Becky Lynch, but she almost completely, she grazed Becky Lynch. She almost missed her entirely. Almost. She may have gotten a couple centimeters on her, but that was about it. There was another one when Becky Lynch was going for her top rope leg drop to both women. She got Carmella pretty much on point. She almost, again, she barely grazed her. She almost completely missed Charlotte. Charlotte was clearly out of position. There was another spot which, while she was doing it in midair, it was cool. But what happened was Carmella was on the outside now, and Carmella, and the only spot that I feared for her safety was she had a dive throughout the rope, and I haven't seen her do a dive since her, well, before that she did a dive to one of her matches with Asuka. I believe that was Money in the Bank. And before that, I hadn't seen Carmella do a dive since her NXT days. I think it was a match with Bayley. That was actually probably her best singles match. But that was NXT, so of course they could edit all that stuff up. But she had a dive, which, on Becky Lynch, she looked like she looked like she, landed on her face. Speaking of Becky Lynch, and this is more of a thing with Ronda, but Becky Lynch does not get a pass here too. She had this black, like war paint or something on, like, it was like on her, it was like across like the streak of the side of her temple over her eyes, and then on the other side. It was a little bit more passable there, because it looked like, okay, she's going in there to kick some ass. She's going in there, like, fighting in a war. Because you go at war, you got, like, war paint. And, of course, we've seen, like, in movies like Marines and Navy SEALs and stuff put on black paint to help camouflage. That was a little bit... It was a little bit more passable with Becky Lynch, but still, she does not get it past. It really looked weird, and at times it looked out of place. More so with the hair. Maybe it was the hair. If the hair was a little bit less, whatever that was, I'd be okay with it. Maybe it was just a combination of both that just didn't work. But then, so Carmella went for the tope. Not and it looked like she landed on her face, which I fear for her safety. I fear for a lot of people's safety in this show so far. Then Carmella went up for a moonsault. And instead of doing a regular one, she did a corkscrew moonsault, which, in midair, it looked pretty cool. But of course, like everything else in this match, she completely missed her opponents. She completely missed Becky Lynch, and she's like, alright, I'll just fall down. And she kind of got Carmella, but it wasn't good. And before anyone's like, oh, well, Becky and Carmella were out of position. Yeah, they were. But let us not forget. Let us not forget that almost every single time that Charlotte goes for a moonsault of any kind, except for when the opponent's on her back on the floor. Every time Charlotte goes for a moonsault to the outside, or if it's starting from the outside, just like on the barricade or something like that, every time she does that, her opponents are never in the way, because Charlotte always lands on her feet. She never allows the other people to just catch her. And I mean, after the spot here, no wonder why she lands on her feet, but still, it does not look good at all when every time she does a moonsault to the outside, she always lands on her feet and never hits her opponent. I don't know if that's how she wants the moonsault to be done, or if that's what management told her to do because she's a woman. All I know is that if she keeps doing that over and over again, she's gonna hurt her foot at some point. She's gonna hurt or sprain or possibly even fracture and break a foot or a leg or something. There was another spot that I thought was a botch at first, but by Charlotte again, when she went for the natural selection, but it wasn't a botch as Becky countered, so that was good. Becky at different points in the match, got the disarmor on both Carmella and Charlotte. There was another spot which I will admit was pretty cool when Charlotte got the she got the figure 4 leg lock on Carmella, and Becky Lynch went from the top rope and hit the top rope leg drop on Charlotte, which I will admit was a pretty good spot. The finish of the match, I gotta get to it. The finish of the match, Carmella went for her stupid ass super kick. That sucks. I mean, seriously, that kick is horrible. I think it went on Charlotte, though. She super kicks Becky Lynch, but Lynch basically sells it for a second and then gets the disarmor on her. Carmella got to the ropes, so she had a suplex, went back to the disarmor, and it looked like she was about to tap, but then Charlotte came in, stole the win with natural selection, and pinned Becky Lynch for the title. This was a pretty good match. A pretty good match, somewhat, that could have been better. Believe it or not, it could have been better, but the sloppiness from Charlotte they were noticeable. It wasn't enough to truly take away from the match, but it was enough to the point where some other people, that's not me, would feel a little bit uncomfortable. After this match, Charlotte and Becky, they hug. The crowd, by the way, did not at all. They did not. This was Becky Lynch's story, and Charlotte just kind of butted in and got a title match. Granted, she did have to get a shot by beating Carmella, but she got a title match. You know, some people have been saying Charlotte is the Roman Reigns of the women's division, and I have to agree. I have to agree. And she is the Roman Reigns of the women's division. Look how many titles she already has. One NXT Women's Championship reign, a Divas title reign, the Raw title, 3... Hang on. She won it at Mania a couple of years ago. She lost it to Sasha. She won it again at SummerSlam. She lost it to Sasha on TV. She won it again at Hell in a Cell. Lost it to not Naomi. I'm thinking of Alexa Bliss for whatever reason. Not Naomi, Bayley. She went to Smackdown. Took a while, but beat Natty for the championship number 6. Then next year at SummerSlam, which is just a couple nights ago, beats Becky Lynch and Carmella. She's already a 7-time champion. Apparently, she also wants... They're probably going to make her the 16-time women's champion just to copy her dad, which I thought that was... which I think is ridiculous, but she is his daughter, so there's that. So, with that... So, yeah, and I think the crowd realized that. And they booed Charlotte. It's why she wasn't overly over at all to the Brooklyn crowd. So, apparently Becky saw it too, because after she hugged and stuff, Becky snapped. She beat the shit out of Charlotte. She took her outside. She rammed her through the barricade, or into the barricade. She threw her over one of the announce tables and had what looked like a pretty nasty fall. Or a nasty, drop or whatever. The crowd were absolutely cheering. They cheered. This was Ryback and John Cena after WrestleMania 29 all over again. When Becky Lynch attacked Charlotte and the crowd cheered for Becky and chanted, "You deserve it," at Charlotte. I fucking died. I died when I saw that because she deserves it. They try to make Charlotte come across as sympathetic when really... she's the one that butted in on Becky Lynch's story. So yeah, that was, you could tell that was a little bit ridiculous. And I think the crowd knew it, Becky knew it, I knew it. Charlotte got exactly what she deserved as far as I'm concerned. I'll be right back, I gotta take a quick piss, I can't hold it anymore. Sorry about that, guys. Let's just say that, when you drink a whole crap ton of water, it tends to go out of your system very quickly. Hang on, let me get a little bit more light in here. There we go. A bit bright, but, you know, as long as you guys can see me clearly, that'll be okay. Next match was the WWE Championship match. It was AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. Out of all the matches I was looking forward to the most on the show, I was looking forward to really 3 the most. I already know, I wasn't really looking forward to this Rollins and Ziggler, only because we already saw that match and we saw how it kind of got screwed up at the last pay-per-view. But going into the show, I was excited for 3 matches the most. Cedric Alexander and Drew Gulak. This match, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. And the next match, which we'll get to in a second. This match was, well, let's just say it. This was a great match. This was a great match. I thought it was, in some ways, it was slightly better than Ziggler and Rollins, but in other ways, Rollins and Ziggler had a better finish. Again, so another finish here. Joe, before this match starts, Joe gives a shout out to AJ Styles' wife Wendy and their daughter, who are they're not exactly at ringside. They're a few rows behind, but they're there. They're at ringside. And Styles says that they are here to see him kick Samoa Joe's ass. I love Samoa Joe. He's awesome right now. Paul Heyman, many would say, is the best mic user in WWE. I would say that too. But Joe, but Paul Heyman's a part-timer like Strowman basically is. Joe is a full-time roster member. As far as full-timers go, Joe's the best on the mic in WWE right now. He's just that awesome. So, I will admit the match did start a little bit weird with the with Joe and AJ going for the test of strength after Samoa Joe's basically been mocking AJ and his wife and his family for weeks and weeks. On one hand, yeah, it is a little bit out of place, but on the other hand, you know, AJ's even made it a point on TV saying, I'm not going to get overly frustrated. I'm not going to let Joe get to me. So that was the story they were playing here, was that Joe wasn't going to allow Joe to get in his head and do that. They had, in some ways, a pretty stiff match here. Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, of course, have worked together many times in Ring of Honor, in TNA. In fact, the crowd gave them TNA chants, which I'm pretty sure made Vince happy. Sarcasm. So yes, it's not exactly the way I expected the match to start, but I didn't mind it considering the story it seems that they were trying to tell. Joe was trying to get in the mind of AJ Styles, and by the end of the match, it worked. These two guys had a great match. It was a lot of fun to watch. Samoa Joe at one point, I think this was near the Samoa Joe. I do remember this. Samoa Joe did tease the Muscle Buster. He didn't really get him up, put in the Muscle Buster position, but he teased the Muscle Buster. And well, yeah, he teased the Muscle Buster, but he couldn't get him up for it. Styles got out of the way. Styles at one point went for the springboard inverted DDT, which of course he doesn't do a whole heck of a lot now. Because there are some guys who just don't know how to take the move. But of course he's worked with Joe all the time in the past, so of course he probably knows how to take the move. I just remember one time a horrible botch happened when he tried to give Matt Hardy the inverted springboard DDT. And Matt Hardy sold it like it was a moonsault when it wasn't. He just completely fell over. Anyway, that was in TNA, by the way. It's like 7 years ago now. Wow. Anyway, so he did that. Styles, the part of the later part of the story was Styles was grabbing at his knee because he gave Joe an Ushigoroshi, which I was surprised at because of how big Joe is. I didn't think he would do it. He went for, I will say, he went for the phenomenal forearm, and Joe got him with what I thought was an awesome looking. It was like a running power. It was like a running power slam. It was awesome. Now, at one point in the match, it was like a snap power slam. At one point in the match, not a power slam, just a snap slam, whatever. But yeah, I keep trying to get to it. At one point in the match, AJ Styles hit the Styles Clash on Samoa Joe. It did look a little bit off because it was rough because Samoa Joe's a big boy. So Styles clearly had a little bit of trouble getting Joe up for the Styles Clash. He got one leg locked in, but he was losing him, so he had to hit the Styles Clash quickly. I was about to say Styles Quash, which is just childish of me. It's Daffy Duck level stuff. The Styles Clash, he got one leg locked in, couldn't get the other one in time, and he hit the Styles Clash, and Samoa Joe was fine. Again, another moment of the show. There seems to be a repeating pattern here, where I fear for someone's life. But still, you know, they definitely you know, settled down after that. At least I hope. So he went for the Muscle Buster. Instead, got Enziguri from Styles. Here's the finish of the match. Let me just get to the finish of the match. One point in the match, though, right before the finish, Samoa Joe hit an Enziguri from the top rope. Not from the top rope. He had an Enziguri while Styles was on the top turnbuckle. He fell off the floor, and Samoa Joe then rammed Styles almost basically head first into the steel steps. Styles was bleeding after this. This is the second time in the match someone bled hard way. Rollins bled hard way by accident in the Ziggler match, and Styles bled by accident in this match. And what do you know? Both matches were great matches, so not too much of a stretch there. Joe then gets on one of the announce tables. He gets on the mic. And he said he apologized to Wendy Styles because he said he promised that Styles was coming home, but apparently he's not. And then he says, "Don't worry, little one," looking at the daughter, talking to the daughter, basically saying, "I'll be your new daddy." I love Samoa Joe. The guy can do no wrong. I love Joe. Styles then gets up with blood on. There's blood on his like the left side of his face or upper part of his like head. He's bleeding, which honestly it added to the effect of the whole thing. I think it's probably why I liked it better, because the placement of the blood here was better than the placement of the blood in the Rollins-Ziggler match. I did like this match slightly more than Rollins and Ziggler, but you know that's like saying, you know, turkey is slightly more delicious than chicken. They're both good. Or saying that root beer is slightly better than Coca-Cola. Again, they're both good. Anyway, Styles was pissed off after the whole "I'll be your daddy" comment. He got up on the announce table, pushed Joe through one of the barricades, through the timekeeper's area, the barricade, got a steel chair, and then just beat the shit out of Samoa Joe with a bunch of chair shots. It was awesome. Styles was manic here. He went then after the match. He went over to his wife and daughter. He apologized to them. He went over to try to pick up his daughter. I forget her name. I really don't care. Then she said, "Daddy, you're bleeding." And he's like, "I know." And I think what happened was, because it looked like she didn't really want to be picked up by AJ Styles, and he looked over to, I think it was one of the officials, or he looked over to somebody. He's like, "Is it bad? Is it bad?" And it's like, not horrible, but yeah, it's bad. It's bad. So he then pretty much went up with his wife and daughter to the back basically to get him cleaned up. I thought this was great. I thought weird? Yes. I thought this was great, and unlike the Bludgeon Brothers New Day match, this match actually made sense having a DQ finish. It set up that Styles went nuts in their match, and they will have another match, probably at Hell in a Cell. And out of all, now, I don't like the idea of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view right off the bat. I hate the idea of a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Especially when it was in October, which of course October is the breast cancer awareness Susan G. Komen month, and I really, really hated the pink ropes with the Hell in a Cell. It's like I know Nostalgia Critic made a joke about this, but it's like My Little Pony mixing itself with Ghost Rider. It just doesn't work. Elias came out next. Oh wait, before I get to Elias, I gotta mention this. Styles and Joe inside Hell in a Cell. That's what I want. Okay, next. Elias came out to perform, but his guitar broke, and he left. He threw a shit fit, and then he walked away. Apparently, there was a show a few days before this that was canceled, and the idea of it was that, oh, we'll just save it until SummerSlam so Elias can perform at basically a bigger show. And I guess the idea was that at the show they were going to do this exact same thing where Elias arrives to perform, his guitar breaks, and then he'll leave. So basically, Vince McMahon, in his infinite wisdom, decided not to screw over a nice-sized crowd, but not a sellout, and decided to screw over tens of thousands of people, over 10 or 15,000 people in the Barclays Center. Dumbass. The Miz meets with the B Team backstage. He tries to take credit for their careers, for their success, but they blow him off and they celebrate on their own. They hope Bryan beats him tonight. I didn't know until this point the B Team were babyfaces. I'm pretty sure that the B Team were supposed to be the heels until tonight. I didn't know they were supposed to be the heels. They were probably the babyfaces. I didn't know that. For a second, I thought Revival was turning face, which I don't like, but anyway. So, Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. Now, out of all the matches on tonight, this was the match I was looking forward to the most. Maurice and Monroe Sky, their daughter, are at ringside. Bryan and The Miz had, definitely, in my opinion, the best match of the night. Bar none, best match of the night. A lot of people will agree. Maybe some people will think the others were better, but I thought this was the best match of the night. I thought this was great. I thought that the story they told here was fantastic. Miz, who has a long-standing rivalry with Daniel Bryan going back 8 years. It goes back almost a decade, which is just insane to think about, but it's true. Daniel Bryan, he had his moves stolen, like his kicks, the it kicks, the yes kicks, and the yes drop kick in the corner. And he stole it from Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, at one point, they were both giving each other the kick city. It was Miz was giving Bryan kicks, Bryan was giving Miz kicks. And at one point, Miz was giving Bryan kicks, and Bryan, not only was he not selling them, but he was leaning towards the Miz kicks, and then afterward, he grabbed one of Miz's legs and then started slapping the shit out of him, which I thought was awesome. At one point, Miz hit a flying clothesline while Bryan was on the top rope, not the turnbuckle, but the rope. It was hanging up there. I thought that looked great. Miz went for a Romero special. When I looked up, it's what it's called, a Romero special, and it wasn't bad, but it definitely was not the greatest. Then Bryan powed out of it, beat the shit out of Miz's legs, and then went for his own Romero special, teaching him apparently how it's done. At one point, Bryan tried to. They were both on the apron. Bryan was kicking the Miz. He went for another kick. He hit the ring post instead, which had to hurt like hell, even if he was wearing pads. And that was one of the weaknesses for... That was pretty much what he was selling for the rest of the match. So that was awesome. There was a lot of, really good spots. There was a point where the Miz went for the figure 4 leg lock, and it was great because the way Bryan was selling it and everything. Miz went for the skull crushing finale. Bryan got out of it, leading to the finish here. Miz was hit to the floor, and Bryan hit a knee strike from the apron. Miz went towards Maurice. Maurice obviously put something in his hand. It looks like he gave him a pair of brass knucks after what the Miz did. Bryan went for an attack to attack some more. He drop kicks him twice, once outside on the barricade and once in the ring. Then he went for a suicide dive, but Miz hit him hit him with in the head, what looked like, with a brief pause, what looked like a pair of brass knucks, and he won the match. This was a great match. The Miz won, which, sad as it may be, I predicted it, because I don't think this feud's over. If Daniel Bryan is indeed leaving, if he's indeed signing with WWE, this feud is not over. This feud could very much likely lead to WrestleMania, or if they just want to get out of the way now, it could lead to Hell in a Cell inside a Hell in a Cell match. Those are two matches right there that are worthy of Hell in a Cell because of personal issues. Bryan and Miz and Joe and Styles. This was a great match. After later in the night, because after the next match, Brie came to check in on Daniel Bryan, and try to encourage him. So I'm assuming at one point we're going to get a mixed tag team match between Bryan and Brie against Miz and Maurice. There's a good chance it might take place at the Evolution show, and I know Evolution is supposed to be an all-women's pay-per-view, but I actually would not mind it taking place at that show because the Miz and Maurice, Maurice now has drawn the ire of Brie Bella, and it works. Unless they want to do a singles match at Evolution and then have a mixed tag team match later on. I will accept that. I can accept, so long as the match is short and Brie beats the shit out of Maurice, because neither of them are great wrestlers, especially not Maurice. Brie is passable now. So if they do that, I'll be happy. Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin. Balor came out, and Corbin came out in his suit, which I think is just horrible. It stops from him wrestling in a suit just does not work out for him. I guess in terms of being a prick, it does, but in terms of him actually being taken seriously as a wrestler, it does not. Out came Finn, who brought the Demon back. I thought they were saving him for big matches, but it is SummerSlam. So he came out as the Demon. He beat the shit out. This was a squash match. He beat the hell out of Baron Corbin. He hit him with the several drop kicks to the corners. He dumped Baron Corbin to the outside. He goes for the over the top rope tope, sling blade on the floor. I remember this right off the bat. Sling blade on the floor, threw him back in the ring, hit an enziguri, and hit a first he hit another drop kick to the corner, hit an enziguri, then went for the a double foot stomp while Balor was... Well, Balor, I think... Yeah, Corbin was on his back facing upward, so he was on his hands and knees. Balor hit a drop kick. Another drop kick to the into the corner for Corbin. Went for the coup de grace and beat Corbin for the win. Now, this I thought was great because this is exactly what it needed to be. Finn Balor needs to be doing something, which, he ended up doing the next night. He had a great match last night with Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. More on that later. A little more on the Roman Reigns part at least. And Corbin can go... Really, I have no interest in Corbin, but they're trying to do something with him. They're trying to make him a bigger deal, which I'm not a fan of, but oh well. Then after that was the Brie-Bryan segment, which I already mentioned. After that was the United States Championship match. It was Shinsuke Nakamura defending against Jeff Hardy. Yes, Nakamura and Hardy was basically the SmackDown main event over The Miz and Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. Why? I was fine with the placement of most of the matches except for this one. I would have put another match here, not what they ended. Probably, maybe one of the women's matches, or no, that wouldn't have worked. You know what? I probably would have put the not the Cruiserweight match, but the SmackDown tag. No, that wouldn't have worked either. No, I would have put Miz and Bryan in this spot and have Nakamura and Jeff probably precede this match. If they want to do it over one of the matches, at least have Miz and Bryan go last. Yes, this was technically the SmackDown main event. It's weird. Match itself, though, is actually pretty good. This was a nice, solid match. Nakamura, this was 10 minutes long, which is exactly how long it needed to be for a match like this high up on the card. A mid-card match, basically. These two, it wasn't a technical masterpiece, but it was a fun-style match with two guys who are charismatic, doing what they do best, basically doing their greatest hits, but they worked. Really, there's only one spot to talk about, which is the ending. Jeff Hardy went for he hit the twist of fate, went for a swanton, but Nakamura, I believe, rolled out, either put his leg in the rope, but he rolled out of the way. Jeff went for, he hit this twist of fate, then Nakamura went out to the apron. He had a swanton bomb, because, of course, Jeff Hardy's nuts, on the apron onto Nakamura, except Nakamura rolls out of the way. So Jeff Hardy basically landed a pretty sick, disgusting-looking swanton bomb on the apron. That was pretty sick. And I feared for Jeff Hardy. Again, somebody else I feared for his life. Because remember, Jeff Hardy, recently he's been having injury problems and nerve issues or something like that. And he hasn't been doing the swanton bomb at house shows anymore. It's only a TV thing for him. And even then, he tries to keep it to somewhat of a minimum. What does he do? Hits a swanton bomb in the apron. He can't help himself. Seriously, Jeff Hardy needs some time off. Randy Orton, after that, Nakamura had an axe kick on the back of Jeff Hardy's head, and then hit the Kinshasa for the win. Randy Orton, after the match came out, he made his way to the ring, but then he turned around and walked away. I guess all in a day's work, Randy Orton gets a paycheck. Seriously, that I thought was kind of ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous, if you were going to do the Elias thing earlier, I just thought of this. If you were going to do the Elias thing earlier in the night, why didn't you have Bobby Lashley come out and beat 7 shades of shit out of Elias? They've completely dropped that angle entirely. Next up was the Raw Women's Championship match. We're coming up to the end here, folks. Natalya comes out, which supposedly what commentary said, because remember, Jim the Anvil Neidhart died recently. Of course, he was Natty's dad. Natalya came out, and what commentary said was the exact same jacket that the Anvil used or wore during his SummerSlam 1990 appearance and match with Bret Hart against Demolition. So that was a nice little tribute. Brie and Nikki were at ringside. Thankfully, they did not interfere in the match. Bliss came out by herself. Ronda Rousey came out looking pissed. Really pissed off. And I gotta say, I joked about Becky Lynch's makeup earlier, but seriously, whatever the hell kind of eye makeup Rousey is doing, I thought it was, honestly, I get they were supposed to make her look threatening, but honestly, it made her look kind of stupid. I thought she looked ridiculous with that eye makeup. I thought it was dumb. So, yeah, I thought it was stupid. Anyway, she went in. Bliss ran early from Ronda Rousey until Ronda Rousey connected her with a right punch to the chest. Bliss then went to the outside again, stalling, so she can catch her breath supposedly. Ronda Rousey then sits down in an Indian style position. Even closes her eyes, allows Bliss to attack. Bliss went for a sleeper hold of all things. Rousey got up, powered out of it. She hit some pretty sick looking judo throws, beat the shit out of her in the corner, and then went for her little arm bar. The arm bar itself looks cool, but they really didn't get a good shot of Ronda. They barely got a good shot of Alexa Bliss with the dislocated arm. Because remember, Alexa Bliss is double jointed. She can do the whole, like, my arm looks broken kind of thing, even though it's not. So, this match was mediocre, but it was exactly what it needed to be. It was Ronda Rousey going in there and destroying Alexa Bliss for the championship. Bliss tapped after supposedly her arm being broken, which I thought was cool. At least it wasn't, Bliss and Nia Jax all over again in both of their matches, which was even more unbelievable there than it was here. Post-match, Natalya came out to celebrate. The Bella Twins went in to join them just to try to steal her thunder. They booed the Bella Twins. They can go screw right off. Main event. WWE Universal Championship match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar came out. Heyman was with Lesnar. Before the bell start, Braun Strowman's music hit. And the crowd were booing both Lesnar and Reigns. Braun came out to, and this was smart on WWE's part, he came out basically to quell down the boos, and he announced that he will cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase after whoever wins, because he even said in the little mini promo he had here that he's not the kind of guy who's gonna cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase when the guy is down and out, or when the guy is weak. Well, maybe not weak, but the guy is, has his back turned. Instead, Braun Strowman's going to face you up like a man, and he's going to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase. The bell rings. Reigns goes right off the bat, hits Lesnar with 3 Superman punches and 2 spears. Lesnar gets back up. Reigns goes for a 3rd spear, but Lesnar gets Roman Reigns in the guillotine, which I thought was smart and I liked. Reigns got to his feet, hit a spine buster. Lesnar then again went for the guillotine. Reigns hit another spine buster. Lesnar then basically takes off the gloves and goes to hit German suplexes. While he hits the German suplexes, not only is this match still getting some boos, they got "You both suck" chants, which I thought was just amazing. I loved that. I thought it was funny. Reigns then, I guess he was going for a spear, because he countered an F5. He was going for a spear or something and accidentally hit a suicide dive and hit Braun Strowman. Lesnar, now taking advantage of Braun being not incapacitated but being distracted, got Braun up for the F5 on the floor, and Lesnar tosses Roman Reigns back in. I remember this. Braun went to go grab Lesnar, so instead Lesnar took the contract, beat the hell out of him, and then threw the briefcase up on the ramp, basically onto the stage. He actually hit one of the LED boards on the way back of the stage where the entrances come out. If Lesnar can't UFC for whatever reason, maybe he should consider weight throwing or even spear throwing. I think he would do awesome at that. He grabbed a chair, beat the hell out of Braun Strowman with the chairs, with the chair, with a lot of chair shots, so that way he won't interfere at all during or after the match. Reigns then hits another spear for the win. Yes, that was a very anticlimactic win in terms of the final move. Roman Reigns hit a spear, 1 spear. Now, granted, he had 2 spears and 3 Superman punches earlier, but yeah, he hit 1 spear on Lesnar and 1 at the end. I can't be the only one that found that ridiculous. The same guy who survived several power slams from Braun Strowman several spears from Roman Reigns in the past. The coquina clutch, the phenomenal forearm, the spear and the jackhammer, what Styles move? The calf crusher. He survived all of that. He survived Kane's choke slams, and it took one spear to beat him. I cannot be the only one that found that kind of dumb. With that being said, at the very least, we got what a lot of us asked for. We got the title off Brock and onto someone full-time. Honest, as much, people might bitch and complain about Roman Reigns being the champion again, but look, as long as it's not on Brock Lesnar, I'm happy. I am happy that it's not on Brock Lesnar anymore, because at least it's on a full-time champion, and now Raw will have at least a little bit more focus from now on. Hopefully. So that happened, and that was basically it. And from what I heard, the crowd was pissed, because remember, basically, WWE teased that there was going to be a cash-in. There was no cash-in, and very conspicuously, right after the replay, Roman went up top, put the belt up in the air, and the show went off the air. So that way, the boos wouldn't reign supreme after people figured out what happened and what they're not getting, even though WWE said they were going to get it, which I thought it really teased the fans, and it was a blight on WWE's part. But aside from that, I mean, it was classic shitty WWE booking. So as long as it's not on Lesnar, I'm happy. So yes, despite all my bitching, I did think it was a good show. There were a lot of good matches on here. Alexander and Gulak on the pre-show was a good match. Rollins and Ziggler was a great match. Styles and Joe was a great match. Miz and Bryan stole the show. The main event I thought was fun. Not a great match or not a great match or a memorable one, but it was fun. I thought it was fun. Rousey destroying Alexa Bliss I thought was fun. The other women's match, despite Charlotte not looking her best here, was a pretty good match. And even Nakamura and Jeff Hardy had a pretty good match. I thought SmackDown Tag Team title, I thought there was a lot of great matches on, several great matches, a lot of good matches. I only have one complaint about this show: the finishes. On the pre-show, it was a mixture of roll-ups and cradles. All three of the matches were a mixture of one or both, which I thought was retarded. The SmackDown Tag Team title match, that's three cradle pinfall stuff. Cradle roll-up pinfalls. We have 2 DQs in the AJ Joe match, although that one I didn't mind. And another one in the SmackDown Tag Team title match, which I did mind. We had 3 different squashes on the show. Braun squashing Kevin Owens, which I thought was, especially by the end of the night, was I thought that was horrible. Balor squashing Corbin I thought was good. Rousey basically squashing Alexa, although it took a little bit longer than the other two, I thought was good. Braun Strowman did not need to squash Kevin Owens. I thought that was ridiculous. The Miz and Daniel Bryan, people might say, oh, the finish sucked. It's the Miz. He cheated to win because he's a heel who's a little bitch. So I didn't mind that. Aside from the finishes, I thought a lot of the stuff we saw on this show was really good. I thought it was a pretty good show. I did think Slammiversary was better and more concise, but I thought this was a pretty good show. So with that being said, guys, go check out my ratings in the description down below. Check out XX Prince. He won my Royal Rumble contest earlier this year. Check him out. He has both SummerSlam and TakeOver reviews up. With that said, guys, be well, stay safe. I'll see you next time, guys, when I do more video edited reviews with several Ring of Honor shows and a mini review of a New Japan show. And next Thursday, is going to be one of the TNA TV specials. I think it's called TNA Impact Wrestling. It's called Reunited, I believe. Let me check. Let me check the name here. Redefined. Never mind. Redefined. So look out for that review. Until next time, guys. Be well. Stay safe. I'll see you next time, guys. With those stuff. Check out XX Prince and the links in the description down below. Until next time, guys.